Poor black twins ask young billionaire to be their dad at school. His answer leaves them all speechless. The 7-year-old boy walked to the front of the classroom, looked the billionaire straight in the eyes, and asked the question that would change 3 lives forever. "Mr. Right, would you be our dad?" Warning, have tissues ready. This story will hit you right in the feels. When Kai and Zara asked the young billionaire to be their father, they had no idea their innocent question would spark a legal battle that would determine whether love or blood makes a real family. Before we dive deep into this story, please let me know in the comment where you are watching from. Hit subscribe if you are hooked in and ready to enjoy the story. Because tomorrow, I have another beautiful story to share with you, and I do want you to miss it for anything. Now let's get into the story. The alarm didn't work again. 7-year-old Kai shook his twin sister Zara awake in the dim light of their grandmother's apartment, where the heat hadn't worked since winter started. "Nana's coughing again," Zara whispered, pulling on the same wrinkled uniform she'd worn yesterday. The washing machine had been broken for 3 weeks. Down the hall, their grandmother Betty tried to muffle another coughing fit. At 68, she worked double shifts at the grocery store just to keep them fed. The twins had learned not to ask for things. New shoes when theirs had holes, supplies for school projects, permission slips for field trips that cost money they didn't have. Kai found 2 pieces of bread that weren't moldy and made Zara a sandwich with the last bit of peanut butter. He went without, telling her he wasn't hungry. It was a lie he'd gotten good at telling. At Jefferson Elementary, they slipped into their classroom just as the late bell rang. Mrs. Johnson gave them a knowing look, but said nothing. She'd been teaching here for 20 years and knew which kids had empty lunch accounts and which ones did homework by streetlight. "Today's very special," Mrs. Johnson announced. "Mr. Devin Wright is visiting our school. He's a successful businessman who grew up right here in our neighborhood." Kai perked up. He'd heard older kids talking about Devin Wright, the guy who'd made billions with some computer company before he turned 30. Zara leaned over and whispered, "Maybe he has a nice car." Across town, Devin Wright stood in his penthouse office, staring down at the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. His assistant had been trying to cancel this school visit for weeks, but something kept stopping him. Maybe it was guilt. He'd grown up only 10 miles from Jefferson Elementary, but it might as well have been another planet now. His phone buzzed with another meeting request, another investor wanting FaceTime, another reporter wanting quotes about his latest acquisition. At 28, he had everything he'd thought he wanted: money, power, respect. So why did he feel so empty? The school visit was supposed to be quick. Show up, give some speech about following dreams, take a few photos, and leave. Community service to make his company look good. His PR team had already written the press release. But when Devin walked into Mrs. Johnson's classroom an hour later, something unexpected happened. 2 small faces in the back row looked at him like he was the most important person in the world. Not because of his money or his fame, but with the pure, hopeful attention that only children possess. Kai nudged Zara. "That's him," he whispered. "That's the guy from TV." Devin began his prepared speech about hard work and education, but he kept getting distracted by those 2 faces. The boy's shoes were held together with tape. The girl's uniform was too small. But they listened to every word like he was revealing the secrets of the universe. Something about their attention made his chest feel tight. When was the last time someone had looked at him like that? Like he mattered for more than his bank account. What is it about first impressions that can change everything? Have you ever met someone who immediately made you feel different about yourself? After Devin finished his speech, Mrs. Johnson opened the floor for questions. Hands shot up around the room. The usual questions about money and cars and famous people he knew. But Kai and Zara didn't raise their hands. They just stared. "Any other questions?" Mrs. Johnson asked, scanning the room. That's when Kai stood up. His chair scraped against the floor in the sudden quiet. Zara grabbed his arm, but he pulled away and walked to the front of the classroom. Devin crouched down to Kai's level, expecting some questions about video games or sports cars. Instead, the boy looked him straight in the eyes and said, "Mr. Wright, would you be our dad?" The room went completely silent. Even the air conditioning seemed to stop humming. Zara appeared beside her brother, nodding seriously. "We don't have one," she explained, as if that made their request perfectly reasonable. "And Nana says you're good with money, so you could probably take care of us real good." Devin felt like someone had punched him in the chest. He'd been asked for millions of dollars without blinking, but these two children asking for a father left him speechless. Mrs. Johnson started to intervene, but Devin held up a hand. He studied the twins' faces. No embarrassment, no understanding of how impossible their request was. Just hope. "What makes you think I'd be a good dad?" he asked quietly. Kai shrugged. "You came here to talk to us. Most grown-ups don't do that unless they care about kids. And you have nice eyes," Zara added. "Nana says you can tell if someone's good by their eyes." Devin's throat felt tight. When was the last time someone had called his eyes nice? When was the last time anyone had seen goodness in him instead of dollar signs? "Tell me about your grandmother," he said. The twins exchanged a look. "Nana works really hard," Kai said carefully. "She's just tired a lot. She coughs at night," Zara whispered. "But she tries to be quiet so we can sleep." Devin saw his childhood reflected in their faces. The careful way they talked about adult problems, the protective instinct for the person raising them, the weight of worries too heavy for small shoulders. "And your parents? Mama got sick when we were babies," Kai explained. "And our real dad." He trailed off, looking at his sister. "He didn't want to be a dad," Zara finished matter-of-factly. "But maybe you do." The hope in their voices nearly undid him. Devin had spent years building walls around his heart, convincing himself that caring too much only led to pain. But these two children had walked right through his defenses with their innocent question. "Being a dad is a big responsibility," he said finally. "We're not much trouble," Kai promised. "We know how to make sandwiches, and we're good at being quiet. And we already know how to take care of ourselves mostly," Zara added. "So you wouldn't have to do the hard parts." Devin's chest ached. These children were asking for a father, while simultaneously promising they wouldn't be a burden. They'd learned to want love while expecting to earn it. The whole classroom watched this conversation like they were witnessing something sacred. Mrs. Johnson had tears in her eyes. Even the usually restless third graders sat perfectly still. "Can I think about it?" Devin asked. Both twins nodded solemnly, as if he'd just agreed to consider a business proposal instead of appending 3 lives. "How long do you need to think?" Kai asked. Devin almost smiled. "How long do you think I should take?" "Well," Zara said thoughtfully, "big decisions are important. But we've been waiting for a dad our whole lives, so maybe not too long." "That's fair," Devin agreed. "Can I come back and talk to you again?" "Tomorrow," Kai asked hopefully. "Soon," Devin promised. As he stood to leave, Zara tugged on his jacket. When he bent down, she whispered in his ear, "We'd be really good kids for you. We promise." Devin felt something break open in his chest, not painful, but like ice melting after a long winter. "You're already really good kids," he whispered back. Walking to his car, Devin couldn't shake the image of those two faces looking at him with pure trust. They'd asked him to be their father like other kids might ask for a favorite toy, with complete faith that if he said yes, it would happen. He sat in his Tesla for 10 minutes before starting the engine, trying to process what had just occurred. In his world, people wanted things from him constantly: money, connections, opportunities. But Kai and Zara had wanted something he'd never thought he had to give. They'd wanted him to be their dad. Devin drove back to his office in a daze, his mind replaying every word of the conversation. By the time he reached his building, he'd convinced himself it was just a touching moment, nothing more. His assistant, Patricia, was waiting with his schedule. "How was the school visit?" "The photographer got some great shots for the website." "Fine," Devin said, though nothing about it felt fine. It was fine, but as he sat through his afternoon meetings, he couldn't concentrate. During a presentation about quarterly projections, all he could think about was Zara's too small uniform. When his lawyers discussed a new acquisition, he kept hearing Kai's promise that there wouldn't be much trouble. "Are you listening, Devin?" His business partner, Marcus Blake, snapped his fingers. "This deal is worth $40 million. "Sorry," Devin muttered. Long day. After everyone left, Devin sat alone in his office, staring at the city lights. He pulled out his phone 3 times to call someone about the twins, then put it away. Who would he even call? Child services? A lawyer? The smart thing was to forget it happened. Send some money to the school, maybe set up college funds for the kids. That's what successful people did. They wrote checks and moved on. His phone rang. Devin Wright. "Mr. Wright." The voice was small and familiar. "This is Kai. From school today." Devin's heart started racing. "Kai, how did you get this number?" "Mrs. Johnson helped us look it up. Is it okay that we called?" "Of course, but we wanted to make sure you knew we were serious," Kai continued. "About the dad thing. Zara made a list of all the reasons you should pick us." Devin heard rustling paper. Then Zara's voice came on the line. "Reason number 1, we already know how to share a bedroom, so you wouldn't need a big house. Reason number 2, Kai continued, we don't eat very much, so groceries wouldn't cost too much money. Reason number 3, we're good at homework and we never fight about bedtime." Devin closed his eyes. These children were selling themselves like a business proposition, trying to prove they were worth the investment. "Kids," he said gently, "you don't need to convince me you're good enough. That's not how it works. But we want to make sure you know," Zara said. "Some grown-ups think kids are too much work." The pain in Devin's chest intensified. "Who told you that?" Silence on the other end, then Kai's quiet voice. "Our real dad." Before he left, Devin gripped the phone tighter. These children were 7 years old and already convinced they had to earn love by being convenient. "Can I tell you something?" Devin said. "The best kids aren't the ones who don't need anything. The best kids are the ones who trust grown-ups enough to need them." "Really?" Zara whispered. "Really. Now, are you supposed to be making phone calls this late?" "Nana's at work," Kai explained. "She won't be home until midnight. Mrs. Patterson from next door checks on us, but she's watching TV." Devin looked at his watch. It was almost 9 o'clock. These kids were home alone while their grandmother worked a night shift to keep them fed. "Have you eaten dinner?" "We shared some crackers," Zara said. "And there's milk that's still good." Crackers and milk. For dinner. Devin thought about the catered sushi that had been delivered to his office. Earlier, most of which he'd thrown away. "I should go," Kai said. "We just wanted to call so you'd remember us." "I could never forget you too," Devin said, and meant it. After they hung up, Devin sat in his office for another hour, fighting with himself. Getting involved would complicate everything. He had a company to run, a reputation to maintain. Taking on 2 kids would change his entire life. But what kind of life was he protecting? He went home to his empty penthouse, ordered takeout for 1, and ate alone while watching the news. The anchor was reporting on some charity gala where wealthy people had donated millions for tax write-offs. Devin had been to dozens of those events, writing checks while making small talk, feeling good about helping without actually getting involved. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for listening to us today. We hope you have sweet dreams. Kai and Zara." Devin stared at the message for a long time. When was the last time anyone had wished him sweet dreams? When was the last time he'd had them? He fell asleep on his couch, still wearing his suit, and dreamed about 2 small faces looking at him with absolute trust. Meanwhile, across town, Kai and Zara lay in their shared bed, whispering about their conversation with Devin. "Do you think he'll really think about it?" Zara asked. "He promised," Kai said. "And he has nice eyes, remember? Nice-eyed people keep promises. What if he says no?" Kai was quiet for a moment. "Then we'll be okay. We're always okay." But as he drifted off to sleep, Kai allowed himself to imagine what it would be like to have a dad who came home every night, who helped with homework, who never made them feel like they were in too much trouble. It was a dangerous dream, but he couldn't help himself. Do you think we sometimes resist the very things our hearts most need? What makes it so hard to let people in when they genuinely want to help? Devin couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., he found himself driving through the city, his Tesla navigating automatically toward Jefferson Elementary. He didn't plan to stop, just drive by, maybe understand what kept pulling him back to those two kids. But as he turned onto the school street, he saw police lights flashing outside a rundown apartment building. An ambulance was pulling away, no sirens, which meant either everything was fine or someone was beyond help. A group of neighbors stood on the sidewalk, some in bathrobes and slippers. Devin slowed down, then spotted two familiar silhouettes sitting on the building's front steps. Kai and Zara sat pressed together, still in their pajamas, watching adults move around them with the numb expression of children who'd learned that bad things just happen sometimes. Devin parked and approached slowly. A police officer stopped him. "I'm sorry, sir. This is a family matter dash." "I know them," Devin said, pointing to the twins. "What happened?" "Grandmother had a medical emergency. Kids are waiting for social services to figure out placement." Devin's stomach dropped. "Is she alive?" "Touch and go. They got her to the hospital, but—" The officer shrugged in a way that said everything. Devin looked at Kai and Zara, who were now watching him with wide eyes. They looked so small in their matching pajamas, clutching each other on those concrete steps. How long until social services arrives? Could be hours. They're overwhelmed tonight. Might not be until morning. Devin made a decision that surprised even him. "I'll wait with them." The officer looked skeptical. "You family?" Something like that. Devin walked over to the twins and sat down on the step beside them. Neither child spoke for a long moment. "Is Nana going to die?" Zara finally whispered. Devin wanted to lie, to promise everything would be fine, but these kids had already dealt with too many broken promises from adults. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But she's at the hospital now, and doctors are taking good care of her." "She was coughing really bad," Kai said. "Then she couldn't breathe right and fell down in the kitchen." "You called 911? "Uh-huh. We know how." Zara scooted closer to Devin. "We've had to call before." Devin felt that familiar ache in his chest. These 7-year-olds were more prepared for emergencies than most adults he knew. "Are you cold?" he asked, noticing they were both shivering. Both kids nodded but didn't complain. Devin took off his jacket and wrapped it around both of them. It swallowed them completely, but they snuggled into its warmth. "What happens now?" Kai asked. "Well, some people from social services will come and make sure you're safe while your grandmother gets better." "Will they put us in different homes?" Zara's voice was tiny. "I won't let that happen," Devin said, the words coming out before he could stop them. Both twins looked at him with sudden hope. "Promise?" Kai asked. Devin thought about his empty penthouse, his carefully ordered life, his complete lack of experience with children. Then he looked at these two kids who'd asked him to be their father less than 12 hours ago, now facing the possibility of being separated and placed with strangers. "Promise," he said. The social worker, Linda Martinez, arrived just as the sun was coming up. She looked exhausted and overworked, carrying a stack of files and a phone that wouldn't stop ringing. "Are you the twins' uncle?" she asked Devin. "I'm." Devin paused. What was he exactly? "I'm their friend. I was at their school yesterday when this happened." Linda frowned. "I'll need to see some identification. And we'll have to run a background check before dash." "Ma'am," Devin interrupted. "My name is Devin Wright. You can look me up. I'm willing to take temporary custody of these children until their grandmother recovers." Linda's eyebrows shot up. She clearly recognized the name. The billionaire? Just someone who cares about these kids. She looked at Kai and Zara, who were still wrapped in Devin's jacket, then back at him. "This is highly unusual. We have procedures dash." "How long would those procedures take?" "Well, with the background checks and home studies, probably 6 to 8 weeks." "And where would the children stay during those weeks?" Linda's silence was enough. The system was overwhelmed. These kids would likely be separated, placed in different foster homes, possibly moved multiple times. "I have lawyers," Devin said quietly. Good ones. I can have emergency custody paperwork filed within hours. I can provide references, financial statements, whatever you need. But these children are not getting separated. Not today. Kai looked up at him with something like awe. You really meant it? I really meant it. Linda sighed. Mr. Wright, taking custody of 2 children isn't like buying a car. This is a huge responsibility. I know exactly what it is, Devin said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. And I'm ready for it. 2 hours later, after phone calls to lawyers and judges and department heads, Devin found himself walking into his penthouse with 2 7-year-olds carrying plastic bags containing everything they owned. Kai and Zara stood in his living room, dwarfed by the soaring ceilings and floor-to-ceiling windows, still wearing their pajamas under his oversized jacket. Is this really where you live? Zara breathed. It is. And for now, it's where you live too. Devin looked around his perfectly appointed space and realized he had no idea how to take care of children. No idea what they needed, what they liked to eat, how to comfort them when they were scared. But as Kai and Zara pressed against the windows to look down at the city below, their faces filled with wonder instead of fear for the first time since the ambulance had driven away, Devin knew he'd made the right choice. Even if he had no idea what came next. The first challenge came at breakfast. Devin stood in his gleaming kitchen, staring at appliances he rarely used, while 2 hungry children sat at his granite counter waiting to be fed. What do you usually eat for breakfast? He asked. Whatever Nana can find, Kai said. Sometimes toast. Sometimes cereal if we have milk. Devin opened his nearly empty refrigerator. Some leftover takeout, expensive sparkling water, and a container of Greek yogurt that had expired last week. I'll order something, he said, reaching for his phone. You can order breakfast? Zara asked, amazed. You can order anything, Devin said, then caught himself. That wasn't exactly the message he wanted to send. I mean, we'll figure out grocery shopping later. 20 minutes later, they were eating pancakes and fresh fruit from the city's most expensive breakfast delivery service. The twins ate like they hadn't seen food in days, which Devin realized might not be far from the truth. Can we call and check on Nana? Kai asked between bites. Devin had already called the hospital twice. Betty was stable but unconscious, her lungs fighting an infection that had been building for months. The doctors said she'd been ignoring symptoms, probably couldn't afford to miss work. She's resting, Devin said carefully. We'll visit her later. After breakfast, Devin faced another crisis. The twins needed clothes. Everything they owned was still in their apartment, and he couldn't take them out in public wearing pajamas. I'll call my assistant, he said. She'll know what to do. But when Patricia arrived an hour later with bags from expensive children's stores, Kai and Zara looked overwhelmed. These are too fancy, Zara whispered, holding up a dress that cost more than their grandmother made in a week. We don't want to get them dirty, Kai added. Devin watched his assistant's face change as she understood. These children were afraid to touch nice things because they'd learned they couldn't afford to replace them. Patricia, could you exchange these for simpler things? Just regular kids' clothes. She nodded, understanding immediately. After she left, Devin sat with the twins on his couch, trying to figure out how to bridge the gap between their worlds. Tell me about your grandmother, he said. What's she like? Kai's face lit up. Nana's the best. She tells really good stories about when she was little in Georgia. And she makes this thing with corn and butter that tastes like heaven. She sings when she cooks, Zara added, even when she's tired. She says music makes everything taste better. She works a lot though, Kai said, his excitement fading. At the grocery store and cleaning offices at night. She says grown-ups have to work hard so kids can dream big. Devin felt something twist in his chest. What do you dream about? Having enough food so Nana doesn't have to choose between her medicine and groceries, Kai said matter-of-factly. And maybe a house with 2 bedrooms so Nana doesn't have to sleep on the couch, Zara added. These children's biggest dreams were things Devin spent without thinking. He'd bought a car last month that cost more than most people made in 5 years. But these kids dreamed of having enough food and their grandmother sleeping in a real bed. What about you? Zara asked. What did you dream about when you were little? Devin paused. No one had asked him that in years. I dreamed about having a family, he said quietly. But you had parents, right? Kai asked. For a while. Devin found himself telling them things he'd never told anyone. They died in a car accident when I was 8. After that, I bounced around foster homes until I aged out of the system. Both twins went very still. Foster homes, Zara whispered. Different families who take care of kids when their parents can't. Some were nice. Some. Devin trailed off. Some weren't. Is that where we'll go if Nana doesn't get better? Kai's voice was small. No, Devin said firmly. I told you, you're staying with me. But what if you change your mind? Zara asked. What if we're too much trouble? Devin looked at these two children who'd been let down by every adult who was supposed to protect them, who'd learned to expect abandonment even as they hoped for love. Can I tell you something about me? He said. I'm really good at keeping promises. It's how I built my company, by doing exactly what I say I'm going to do. And I promised you wouldn't be separated. I promised to take care of you. Those aren't promises I make lightly. Why? Kai asked. Why do you care about us? Devin thought about how to explain it. When I was in foster care, I used to imagine that someday someone would want me. Not because they were getting paid to take care of me, or because they felt sorry for me, but because they actually wanted me in their life. And no one ever did. Zara asked sadly. No one ever did. So when you asked me to be your dad yesterday, it was like someone was offering me the thing I'd always wanted too. The twins exchanged a look, some silent communication passing between them. Mr. Devin? Kai said formally. If we're going to be a family, even just temporarily, shouldn't we know more about each other? What do you want to know? Everything, Zara said. Like, what's your favorite color? Do you like movies? Are you scared of anything? For the next hour, they sat on Devin's couch trading stories. He learned that Kai wanted to be a doctor so he could help people like their grandmother, and Zara wanted to be a teacher because Mrs. Johnson was the nicest person she knew. They learned that Devin's favorite color was blue because it reminded him of the sky, which meant freedom. When Devin told them he was scared of thunder because it reminded him of the night his parents died, Zara scooted closer and patted his arm. It's okay, she said. We're scared of lots of things too. But Nana says being scared just means you care about something. As Devin looked at these two children who'd lost so much but still had room in their hearts to comfort him, he realized something had shifted. He wasn't just helping them anymore. They were helping him too. By the third day, they'd fallen into an unexpected rhythm. Devin worked from home, setting up his laptop on the kitchen counter while the twins did homework at the table. He discovered that Kai was brilliant at math but struggled with reading, while Zara could write stories that made him laugh but needed help with numbers. I don't get why letters sometimes sound different, Kai said, frustrated with a worksheet. Like what? Devin asked, looking over his shoulder. This word. Kai pointed to caught. It looks like it should sound like cat, but longer. Devin pulled up a chair beside him. English is weird like that. Want me to help? For the next hour, they worked through reading together. Devin found himself remembering his own struggles in school. How hard it was to concentrate when you were worried about where you'd sleep next week, whether there would be dinner that night. You're a good teacher, Kai said when they finished the worksheet. You're a good student. You just needed someone to take the time. That afternoon, they visited Betty in the hospital. The twins ran to her bedside, careful not to disturb the wires and tubes. My babies, Betty whispered, her voice hoarse but relieved. Are you being good for Mr. Wright? We're being perfect, Zara promised. He's teaching Kai to read better, and he ordered us pancakes with real strawberries. Betty's eyes met Devin's over the children's heads. Thank you, she mouthed. They're incredible kids, Devin said. You did an amazing job with them. Their mama would be proud, Betty said, then started coughing again. The nurse came in to check her vitals and suggested the visit should be short. As they prepared to leave, Betty grabbed Devin's hand. I need to tell you something, she whispered. Their father, he wasn't just absent. He told them they were mistakes, that they ruined his life. They still believe that sometimes. Devin felt anger burn in his chest. They're not mistakes. I know that. You know that. But they don't always know it. Betty's grip tightened. They need someone to show them they're wanted. Not just needed, but wanted. Driving home, the twins were quieter than usual. Is Nana going to be okay? Zara asked. The doctors are taking good care of her, Devin said. But it might take a while for her to get completely better. What if she doesn't? Kai asked quietly. Devin pulled over and turned to face them. Then we'll figure it out together. All three of us. You'd really keep us? Even if Nana couldn't take care of us anymore. Kai, Zara, look at me. Devin waited until both kids met his eyes. I don't want you just because your grandmother is sick. I don't want you because I feel sorry for you. I want you because you make my life better. Because this apartment felt like a house, but now it feels like a home. Zara started crying. Not sad tears, but the kind that comes when something inside you finally relaxes. Really, she whispered. Really. That evening, Devin found himself doing something he'd never imagined. Helping two 7-year-olds get ready for bed. He'd had his assistant buy proper pajamas, toothbrushes, everything kids needed. But when bedtime came, both twins looked lost. At home, we all sleep in the same room, Kai explained. Nana on the couch, us in the bed. We don't know how to sleep alone. Devin looked at his guest rooms, each bigger than the twins' entire apartment at home, and realized how cold and empty they must seem. What if we camp out in the living room tonight? He suggested. I'll pull out the couch cushions, make it like an adventure. 20 minutes later, they'd built a fort out of couch cushions and blankets. Devin found himself lying on the floor between two kids, staring up at the city lights through his floor-to-ceiling windows. Tell us a story, Zara said sleepily. I don't know any good stories. Tell us about when you were little, Kai said. A happy story. Devin thought for a moment. When I was about your age, I lived with this foster family that had a big dog named Charlie. Charlie was supposed to be a guard dog, but he was afraid of everything, butterflies, vacuum cleaners, even mice. Really? Zara giggled. Really? But Charlie loved me, even though I was just this scared kid who didn't talk much. Every night, he'd sneak into my room and sleep at the foot of my bed, even though he wasn't supposed to. Having him there made me feel less alone. What happened to Charlie? Kai asked. When I had to move to a different family, I couldn't take him with me. I still miss him sometimes. Zara reached over and patted Devin's arm, the same comforting gesture she'd made earlier. Maybe we can get a dog someday. One that's not afraid of anything. I'd like that, Devin said, surprising himself. A month ago, he'd never thought about having a pet. Now he was imagining walking a dog with two kids, coming home to something warm and alive and happy to see him. Devin. Kai's voice was drowsy. Yeah. Do you think our real dad would be proud of us now? If he could see us with you. Devin's chest tightened. Kai, the problem was never with you. The problem was with him. He was broken in a way that had nothing to do with how amazing you and Zara are. How do you know? Because I've met you. Anyone who could walk away from you two wasn't capable of being a real father anyway. As the twins drifted off to sleep, Devin lay awake thinking about how much his life had changed in just 3 days. He'd gone from eating alone every night to helping with homework, from silence to laughter, from thinking he was fine alone to realizing he'd been slowly dying of loneliness without even knowing it. Zara mumbled something in her sleep and rolled closer to him. Kai's hand found his arm and gripped it like an anchor. Devin had never felt more needed or more terrified of losing what he'd found. Have you ever experienced a moment when you realized that helping someone else was actually healing something broken inside yourself? Everything fell apart on a Tuesday morning. Devin was making breakfast, actual cooking, not ordering delivery, when his phone started ringing. First his lawyer, then his business partner, then reporters. By the time he answered the third call, Kai and Zara were watching him with worried faces. Mr. Wright, this is Janet Stevens from Child Protective Services. We need to discuss the irregular custody arrangement with the Harrison twins. Devin stepped into his office, closing the door. What's the problem? All the paperwork was filed properly. The problem is that someone has raised concerns about your motivations. A wealthy single man with no experience suddenly taking custody of 2 children? It raised red flags. What kind of red flags? Questions about why you really want these kids. Whether this is some kind of publicity stunt. Whether you're equipped to provide proper care. Devin felt ice in his veins. Who raised these concerns? I can't reveal that, but there's going to be an investigation. We'll need to do surprise home visits, interviews with the children separately from you, background checks on everyone in your household. There is no household. It's just me and them. Mr. Wright, I have to ask, is there any romantic involvement with the grandmother? Any financial arrangement that would benefit you from taking these children? The accusation hit Devin like a slap. Are you seriously asking if I'm using 2 7-year-olds for some kind of scheme? I'm asking what a billionaire gains from suddenly playing father to 2 poor children. It's a fair question. After the call ended, Devin sat in his office trying to process what was happening. Someone had reported him. Someone thought he was using Kai and Zara. He walked back to the kitchen, where both twins were pushing eggs around their plates, no longer eating. Is someone trying to take us away? Kai asked quietly. Devin's heart broke. These kids had learned to read adult stress like a survival skill. Some people have questions about our arrangement, Devin said carefully. But no one is taking you anywhere. What kind of questions? Zara asked. Before Devin could answer, his phone rang again. This time it was his business partner, Marcus. Devin, what the hell is going on? There's a reporter outside the building asking about you playing house with some foster kids. This is a disaster for the company image. They're not foster kids, and this isn't playing house. Look, I get it. You want to help some poor kids, write a check. Set up a scholarship fund. But actually taking them in? It looks unstable, unpredictable. Investors don't like to be unpredictable. Since when do I care what investors think about my personal life? Since your personal life started affecting our stock price. The board is freaking out. They think you're having some kind of breakdown. Devin looked at Kai and Zara, who were pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. I have to go, he told Marcus. Devin, you need to think about this rationally. You've known these kids for a week. Is it really worth risking everything you've built? That afternoon, the first reporter showed up at Devin's building. Then another. By evening, there were news vans on the street. Billionaire's strange new family arrangement, read one headline. Tech mogul's midlife crisis involves 2 children, read another. The worst was a tabloid that ran pictures of Devin with the twins, with the headline, What's really going on here? Devin tried to shield Kai and Zara from the coverage, but they weren't stupid. They could see the cameras outside, feel the tension in every phone call. People think you're bad for wanting us, Zara said that night. It wasn't a question. People don't understand, Devin said. Maybe they're right, Kai said quietly. Maybe we are too much trouble. You are not too much trouble. But your work is getting messed up because of us, Kai continued. And people are saying mean things about you. Maybe we should go back to the foster care lady. Devin felt panic rise in his chest. Is that what you want? Both twins looked at each other, having one of their silent conversations. We want to stay with you, Zara whispered. But we don't want to ruin your life. You're not ruining my life. You're saving it. But what if the people at your work fire you? Kai asked. What if you lose all your money because of us? Devin knelt down to their level. Money doesn't matter. Work doesn't matter. You two matter. But you worked so hard to build your company, Zara said. Nana always says you shouldn't throw away something you worked hard for. That night, after the twins went to bed, Devin sat in his office staring at emails from his board of directors, his investors, and his business partners. All saying the same thing. Fix this situation before it destroys everything. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw the news. Some people never learn that mixing business with charity always ends badly. You should have stayed in your lane. D. Devin stared at the message, his blood running cold. D. It could only be one person, David Harrison, the twins' biological father. Somehow, he'd seen the coverage and decided to cause trouble. His lawyer called an hour later with worse news. David Harrison has filed a petition to regain custody of his children. He's claiming you manipulated them and their grandmother, that you're using them for publicity. He's also claiming that as their biological father, he has more right to them than you do. He abandoned them years ago, but he's still their legal father. And with all this negative press, a judge might decide that returning them to their biological parents is the safer option. Devin hung up and walked to the twins' room, where they were sleeping peacefully in the beds he'd bought them, surrounded by toys and books and all the things children should have. In the morning, he would have to tell them that the man who'd called them mistakes was trying to take them away. He would have to explain that his love for them might not be enough to keep them safe. For the first time since this all began, Devin wondered if everyone was right. Maybe he was being selfish. Maybe loving them wasn't enough if it meant losing them to someone who would hurt them all over again. Devin didn't sleep. He spent the night pacing his apartment, weighing impossible choices. By morning, he'd made a decision that felt like tearing his own heart out. When Kai and Zara woke up, he was sitting at the kitchen table with papers spread in front of him and dark circles under his eyes. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Both twins went very still. They'd heard those words before, and they never led anywhere good. "Your biological father wants you back," Devin said, forcing himself to be direct. "He's filed papers with the court." "No," Zara whispered. "We don't want to go back to him." "He left us," Kai said, his voice shaking. "He said we were mistakes. He said we ruined everything." "I know," Devin said, his voice rough. "But legally, he has rights. And with all the news coverage, with people questioning my motives, a judge might decide." He couldn't finish the sentence. "So you're giving up on us?" Kai's voice was flat, resigned. "Just like everyone else. I'm not giving up. I'm trying to protect you. If this goes to court, if there's a big legal battle, you'll be caught in the middle. There will be more reporters, more people asking you questions, more strangers deciding what's best for your life." "But you promised," Zara said, tears starting to fall. "You promised we wouldn't be separated. You promised to take care of us." Devin felt like he was being torn apart. Sometimes keeping a promise means making hard choices. "So what happens now?" Kai asked. "There's a family in Connecticut. Good people, experienced foster parents. They could take both of you, keep you together while this gets sorted out." "Foster care," Zara whispered. "You're sending us to foster care. Just temporarily. Until I can figure out how to fight this properly without putting you through hell." Both twins stared at him with the same expression. Not anger, but resignation. The look of children who'd learned that adults always left eventually. "When?" Kai asked. "This afternoon." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The twins went to their room to pack their few belongings. Devin could hear them whispering and could hear Zara crying softly. Every instinct screamed at him to storm into that room and tell them he'd changed his mind, that they'd fight this together. But David Harrison had hired expensive lawyers. The media was painting Devin as unstable, possibly predatory. If this went to court, Kai and Zara would be questioned, examined, their every word scrutinized. They'd already been through too much trauma. An hour later, Patricia arrived to drive them to Connecticut. The twins came out carrying their plastic bags, looking smaller than Devin had ever seen them. "I'll call you every day," Devin promised. "And I'll keep fighting to bring you home." "This was our home?" Zara asked quietly. "This will always be your home." Neither twin hugged him goodbye. They just walked to the car like they were going to their execution. As the car pulled away, Devin stood at his window and watched until it disappeared. Then he called his lawyer. "I want to fight this. I don't care what it costs. Devin, I have to advise you that your chances aren't good. David Harrison may be a deadbeat, but he's still their biological father. And with all this negative press dash, I don't care about the press. I care about those kids. The best outcome we can hope for is supervised visitation once he gets custody. Maybe some kind of shared arrangement." "Not good enough." Devin hung up and called his business partner. Marcus, I need you to handle the board meeting today. Thank God you're being reasonable. We can spin this as a temporary lapse in judgment. Get back to business dash. I'm not being reasonable. I'm going to court to fight for my kids. Your kids? Devin, they're not your kids. You've known them for a week. They're more my kids than his. He abandoned them. And you're about to lose everything trying to save them. Your company, your reputation, your future. Is it worth it? Devin looked around his empty apartment. Perfectly clean, perfectly quiet, perfectly lifeless. Yes, he said. It's worth everything. That afternoon, Devin sat in his lawyer's office, listening to strategy discussions and worst-case scenarios. The lawyer was explaining why they'd probably lose when Devin's phone rang. It was a foster family in Connecticut. Mr. Wright? This is Sarah Chun. The twins are here, but there's a problem. What kind of problem? They won't eat. They won't talk. They're just sitting together on the couch, holding hands and staring at the wall. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've never seen kids shut down so completely. Devin's heart clenched. Can I talk to them? I don't think that's a good idea. It might make the transition harder. Mrs. Chun, with respect, I don't think it can get much harder. A few minutes later, Kai's voice came on the phone, small and tired. Devin, hey buddy, how are you doing? Are you really not going to fight for us? The question hit Devin like a physical blow. What? You said you were sending us away to protect us. But it feels like you're sending us away because it got too hard. Devin closed his eyes. In trying to protect them from the legal battle, he'd confirmed their worst fear, that they weren't worth fighting for. Kai, can you put me on speaker so Zara can hear too? Okay. Both of you listen to me. I made a mistake. I thought I was protecting you, but I was really protecting myself. I was scared of losing in court, scared of putting you through more pain. But you know what's scarier? What? Zara's voice was barely a whisper. Living the rest of my life knowing I gave up the best thing that ever happened to me without fighting for it. So what are you going to do? Kai asked. Devin looked at his lawyer, who was shaking his head frantically. I'm coming to get you. Tonight. And then we're going to fight this together, all three of us. Because that's what families do. 3 months later, Devin stood in a courthouse hallway, watching Kai and Zara color in books while they waited for the final custody hearing. The twins had been living with him again since that night he'd driven to Connecticut to bring them home, but under the watchful eye of court-appointed supervisors. The media storm had eventually died down, especially after several investigative pieces revealed David Harrison's history of abandonment and financial problems. It turned out his sudden interest in custody coincided with discovering Devin's wealth. Mr. Wright, the court clerk called. Judge Martinez is ready for you. Devin's lawyer gathered his files. Over the past months, they'd built a case not just on Devin's ability to provide for the twins, but on the genuine bond they'd formed. Teachers testified about the children's improvement in school. Betty, recovered and back home, had written a letter supporting Devin's custody petition. But the most powerful testimony had come from Kai and Zara themselves. Judge Martinez was a stern woman in her 50s who'd seen every kind of custody case. She looked at Devin over her glasses as he sat at the plaintiff's table. Mr. Wright, in 3 months of supervised visitation reports, I've read some interesting observations. The supervisor notes that these children call you Dad naturally, without prompting. They've shown significant emotional improvement. Their academic performance has improved dramatically. Can you explain this transformation? Devin glanced back at Kai and Zara, who gave him encouraging smiles. Your Honor, I think it comes down to something simple. For the first time in their lives, someone wanted them not because they had to, but because they chose to. They didn't have to earn my love or worry about losing it. They just had to be themselves. And what about your business concerns? The board pressure you've been under. I resigned as CEO last month, Your Honor. I'm still the majority shareholder, but I've stepped back from day-to-day operations. My priorities have changed. That's a significant career sacrifice for children you've known for a few months. Devin smiled. It's not a sacrifice when you're gaining something infinitely more valuable. Judge Martinez turned to David Harrison, who sat with his lawyer looking uncomfortable. Mr. Harrison, you've stated that you want custody of your children returned. Can you explain your 3-year absence from their lives? David shifted in his chair. I was going through a difficult time, Your Honor. But I'm ready to be a father now. What changed? David's lawyer whispered something to him. I've gotten my life together. I have a stable income now. From what source? Another whispered conversation. I've been offered a position with a marketing firm. Devon's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, we'd like to enter into evidence this recording of Mr. Harrison speaking with a reporter last week. The judge nodded, and suddenly David's voice filled the courtroom. Look, the guy's loaded. If I get custody, there's going to be child support payments that'll set me up for life. Those kids are my ticket to easy money. The courtroom went silent. David's face went white. Mr. Harrison, Judge Martinez said icily, did you just admit that your custody petition is financially motivated? That was taken out of context. The context seems quite clear. Judge Martinez looked at her notes. I've also reviewed the children's statements from their private interviews. Would you like me to read what they said about you? David shook his head quickly. They described you as the man who said we were mistakes. They expressed fear about being forced to live with you. They begged not to be separated from Mr. Wright. Judge Martinez looked at Devon. Mr. Wright, these children have been through significant trauma. Are you prepared for the challenges that come with raising children who've experienced abandonment and instability? Your Honor, I've learned more about parenting in the past 4 months than I learned about business in 10 years. Those children have taught me patience, unconditional love, and what it really means to put someone else's needs before your own. Whatever challenges come, we'll face them together. And if they need therapy, specialized care, educational support, whatever they need, they'll have. Money isn't the solution to everything, but it can remove barriers to getting help. Judge Martinez was quiet for a long moment, reviewing her notes. Finally, she looked up. In the matter of custody for Kai and Zara Harrison, this court finds that the best interests of the children are served by awarding full legal custody to Devon Wright, with David Harrison's parental rights terminated due to abandonment and evidence of unfitness. Devon heard Kai and Zara cheer behind him. His lawyer was shaking his hand, but all Devon could focus on was turning around to see 2 faces beaming at him with pure joy. Dad! Zara shouted, running into his arms. Are we really staying? Forever, Devon promised, lifting both twins in a hug that felt like coming home. 6 months later, Devon stood in the kitchen of their new house. Not the penthouse, but a real home with a yard and bedrooms for everyone and a kitchen table big enough for homework and family dinners. Betty lived in the guest house now, close enough to be part of their daily lives, but independent enough to maintain her dignity. She'd become the grandmother Devon had never had, and he'd become the son she'd always wanted. Dad, can you help me with this math problem? Kai called from the table. In a minute, Devon replied, flipping pancakes while Zara set the table. These are almost ready. Through the window, he could see the swing set he'd installed last month. This weekend, they were getting the dog they'd talked about, a rescue that was supposedly good with kids. His phone buzzed with a text from his lawyer. Adoption papers are final. Congratulations on your new last name, boys. Devon smiled. The twins had asked to change their names to Wright, wanting to make their belonging official in every way possible. Boys, breakfast is ready, he called. Coming, Dad, they replied in unison, and Devon felt that familiar warmth spread through his chest. He'd been Devon Wright, billionaire, for years. But Devon Wright, father, was the title he was most proud of. As they sat around the table sharing pancakes and planning their day, Devon caught Betty's eye. She smiled and nodded toward the twins, who were arguing good-naturedly about whose turn it was to walk the dog they didn't have yet. You did good, she mouthed. Devon looked at his sons, because that's what they were now, officially and completely, and knew she was right. But the truth was, they'd saved him just as much as he'd saved them. Sometimes the best families aren't born. Sometimes they're chosen, built from love and commitment and the courage to believe that belonging doesn't require blood. It just requires showing up and staying, even when things get hard. What does it mean to you when someone chooses to love you not because they have to, but simply because they want to? How might that kind of unconditional acceptance change the way you see yourself and your place in the world?